Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Gruely Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome in my co-host. First up, from the FF Face-Off, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing awesome, guys. How are you?
All right. And, of course, as always, our NFL beat writer, Sam Teets. How's it going, Sam?
It's going great, Mike. How are you?
Yeah, I've been better. I've been worse. So, what the hell? Today, we're going to predict the perfect landing spots for the top free agents in the upcoming NFL free agency. I'm going to start off with Brandon Scherff, or Shreve, or however you say his name. He's Washington guard. I think he's the top offensive lineman available in free agency this year, Sam. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think anyone really compares to him. The only other guy who's up there in terms of offensive lineman is maybe Jack Conklin for the Tennessee Titans, but he never really reached the heights we expected him to get to. On the other hand, Brandon Scherff's one of the best guards in football when he's healthy, so I definitely think he's the top offensive lineman available.
Yeah, and when I look at this, I think Scherff is perfect for the scheme that head coach Ron Rivera is probably going to want to run here. He often used the run-first, run-heavy philosophy with the Panthers. I think he ends up staying in Washington, Anthony.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they actually used a franchise tag to keep him, because I think there's going to be a lot of teams trying to sign him if he hits the open market. But, yeah, he's going to be the player. If the Washington Redskins are going to tag anybody, it's going to be him.
Yeah, and I think the 6-year, $84 million extension Zach Martin got from the Cowboys 2 years ago, I think he's getting a contract similar to that. Sam, what's your opinion on the contract, and do you think there's any other place that could make a run at him if he's not franchised?
You know, I don't think he's worth that amount of money, but we've been over this before in the NFL. The amount of money guys get paid keeps going up regardless of whether they deserve it or not. He's good. I don't think he's Zach Martin good. But I can totally understand paying him that money if a long-term deal is reached. If you're Washington, you don't have a ton of guys you need to pay moving forward. Like, Dwayne Haskins is still going to be on his rookie deal for a while, and you don't even know if he's going to be your quarterback next year. So if I'm the Redskins, it might be worth offering up that large deal.
All right, another one that stands out to me, Anthony, is Eric Armstead, which I think if cap space wasn't an issue, that Eric Armstead would return to the 49ers. He's thrived there, especially 10-sack campaign this past season. Where do you see Armstead ending up?
I think he's another player. If anybody's going to get tagged on the 49ers, it's going to be Eric Armstead. And that's a rumor that I saw, maybe a week or two after the Super Bowl when, people started breaking down both of those rosters. And I think Armstead's even open to the tag.
Well, I think this, though. I think the 49ers projected to just have under $18 million in cap space. Based on the 5-year, $85.5 million deal D. Ford signed with San Francisco last offseason, I don't know that the 49ers will have enough space to give Armstead a fair market deal.
Well, at least not this year, to where if he plays under the 1-year guaranteed tag and then he hits the open market again next year and they let him walk. I think this is a 49ers team that they're going to want to keep their core together, especially on the defensive side of the ball, for one more run while this window is still open.
What do you think, Sam?
I think the 49ers probably want him back, and they can better evaluate what he's going to do if they put him under the franchise tag. But financially, I don't know how much of a long-term solution that is. I don't think they really should put the franchise tag on him because he has that chance to be a one-hit wonder. And you also run the issue, like you said, with the money itself. It's very thin in San Francisco. And if you want to make a run again, you're probably going to need to find another receiver because you got to replace Emmanuel Sanders. So I don't think him staying with the 49ers is the best option. I view him going towards a team that is potentially losing a lot of defensive linemen.
Which would be the Seattle Seahawks, who also are armed with nearly $60 million in cap room, Sam.
Yeah, the Seattle Seahawks are a good fit looking forward. They've got a lot of guys they need help with, to be honest, because they've got Jadeveon Clowney is a free agent. He's a defensive end. Jaron Reed, who was a defensive tackle, he's a free agent. Al Woods is another defensive tackle. He's a free agent. 2 more, or 3 more, actually, of their defensive ends are also free agents. So they need to rebuild that whole defensive line. And a guy like Eric Armstead, who's valuable against the run and in the pass rush would be a perfect player for them.
Yeah, and I think also you kill two birds with one stone there, Anthony, because you make your D-line better, but you also take something away from San Francisco.
Yeah, and this is a Seattle team that actually they have a need at the position because there are no guarantees they're going to get Clowney back, especially with the dollar amount he's going to want. I feel like Armstead could be, not much of a cheaper option, but enough to make a difference.
Yeah, and at cornerback, Byron Jones, I think, may be the most coveted cornerback in free agency. He's only missed one game in the past 5 years. And he's been the Cowboys' #1 cover man for most of that time. What do you see with Byron Jones, Anthony?
I can see Dallas letting Byron Jones walk because you can't pay everybody, especially when you need to pay Dak, you need to pay Cooper, you already paid Zeke and Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch. He's going to want to get paid probably early, especially if he can bounce back, stay healthy, and have another big season. Because, without Van Der Esch last year, I feel like that defense really fell apart. So I don't see Byron Jones staying in Dallas. As far as a landing spot for him, I mean, you could really take your pick of cornerback-needy teams. Maybe the Jets really do come to mind, and even the Houston Texans.
I think it's the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles need a corner. And, I know the Eagles aren't expected to enter the market with as much cap space as even Dallas. They're projected to have around $45.6 million. But Philadelphia already has its franchise quarterback under contract. I think Byron Jones is a fit in Philly, Sam.
Yeah, I agree with you on that part. And I heard there was a report that came out the other night that said the Giants and Eagles might get into a bidding war over Byron Jones. So it sounds like he's going to stay in the division. And of those two teams, I think Philadelphia is probably a scenario that Jones should be most interested in because not only can you get your money, you can also go to a situation where you might have a chance to win some games down the line and maybe get to the playoffs.
Yeah. Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Finished the regular season with a 117.5 passer rating last year. There's a lot of places that seem to need a quarterback, whether it's Carolina, places like that. I think he ends up staying in Tennessee, though, Sam. What do you think?
Yeah, I have him staying in Tennessee, although Carolina's an interesting spot, especially if Cam Newton's not healthy. But I do have him staying in Tennessee for the short term because I don't think that just the way the quarterbacks are going to fall this offseason, I don't see where Tannehill has a chance to go somewhere better. I don't know if he's going to get a contract offer from anywhere better. And even if he doesn't, they might use the franchise tag on him anyways.
Anthony?
I feel like we have almost a flooded or a potentially flooded quarterback market for a guy like Ryan Tannehill. Yes, he thrived last year, comeback player of the year, but that was all to me. Like if you put Ryan Tannehill in this spot with a weak running game and it's all on Tannehill, I don't think he's going to play well. I just don't think he's that guy. So you need to go to a place that has a sound offensive line and running game, and then let Tannehill do the rest. So I think his best spot's either in Tennessee. There's also the rumor that New England can make a play for Ryan Tannehill as well.
Yeah, well, New England's got to make a play for somebody if they lose Tom Brady. What do you think about Justin Simmons, Anthony?
The safety in Denver, he's a candidate for Denver's franchise tag. They just traded for the cornerback, A.J. Boye from Jacksonville. They still might make a play to keep Chris Harris, but it might be a little bit too much. But Simmons, especially in that defense, he's one of the better players, one of the captains on Vic Fangio's defense. So I think it would be silly for Denver to let him walk. You need to franchise tag a player like him because he's a game-changing player.
Yeah, I think he stays in Denver, Sam.
Yeah, it's almost certain they're going to franchise tag him if a long-term deal isn't done. But if we're talking about safeties, and we mentioned the Eagles earlier going after Byron Jones, a team that could be in the market for a safety is Philadelphia. They're losing Rodney McLeod, who's one of their stars, and Malcolm Jenkins is getting up there in age. So if by some miracle Justin Simmons hits the open market, I'd expect a team like Philadelphia to potentially even to look into the scenario at least.
All right, what about Shaq Barrett? Shaq Barrett's a guy who had a great season last year. Breakout season, 19.5 sacks after only having 14 across these first four seasons. I think Barrett ends up staying in Tampa, Sam.
Yeah, I think they're going to franchise tag him. They have some other players along defensive front, notably Jason Pierre-Paul and Dominican Sue, are going to be free agents. They're not going to tag either of those guys. And they're definitely not going to tag Jameis Winston. And really, if you're looking at the guys that are potential free agents in Tampa Bay, the only other candidate for the tag really at that point is Shaquille Barrett. So I think they definitely go after him. And also it gives him a chance to see one more year. Can he do this again? Can he be a consistent pass rusher and prove that he's worthy of a long-term deal?
All right, Anthony, agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. We talked about Barrett a couple of shows ago on who could be, a bust, and we all believe Shaq Barrett can be a bust, but there's also pass rushers are coveted, and we can see a team be over-aggressive and try to overpay, but he does fit in Tampa's system. He did have a breakout year, so I do think he stays put. And I think he would be smart, too.
All right, Jadeveon Clowney. I think Jadeveon Clowney would be perfect in Indianapolis. I think he would be a tremendous fit in that defense. I think he's already familiar with several of the defensive foes after spending 5 years with the Texans. What do you think, Anthony?
I think Seattle's going to make an attempt to retain him, but when it all said and done, I think he's a one and done. He was a 1 year rental for the Seattle Seahawks. For a guy like Clowney, if you take a look at some of the more rebuilding teams, what about the Miami Dolphins? I think they're going to be extremely busy. And yes, they're going to go after former Patriots, but I also think they're going to go after some splash signings like Jadeveon Clowney for Brian Flores' defense.
I still think he fits better with the Colts. And if I'm Jadeveon Clowney, I can go to the Colts and maybe have a chance to win something, Sam.
Yeah, the Colts are a team that I think a lot of players we're talking about are looking at.
Plus,
going
they've
there
got like $90 million in projected cap space.
Yeah,
they had it last year and didn't spend it.
Yeah,
they had over 100 and didn't spend it last year. Their biggest acquisition was Devin Funchess, who did not see a play.
Well, doesn't mean they're going to do this. I'm just saying what I think they should do, and I think they will. I think the Colts are going to make a run at him. I think that last year you were sitting with a team that you thought was Super Bowl ready with Andrew Luck at quarterback. I think that's why they kind of stayed pat.
Another team that has a lot of money that can make a run at Tommy, though, is the Buffalo Bills, because the Bills kind of need pass rush help. We've talked about how good their secondary's been, but they really don't have a bona fide star pass rusher at this point. Jerry Hughes is getting kind of old. So Buffalo's a team that could use someone like Jadeveon Clowney.
All right, Amari Cooper, Anthony, talk to me.
I think Cooper's staying put. I don't see. I think he wants to stay in Dallas. Dallas wants to keep him, and I do think he gives them a little bit of a discount because he does have a nice rapport with Dak Prescott. He had two of his best seasons with the Cowboys, or at least a season and a half, because he only spent a half a season with them in 2018. But I think Amari Cooper's a player that's not going anywhere. He's not going to get tagged. I think this is a deal that's going to get done.
So are they going to sign Dak and Amari? And how much are they going to pay for the services?
They're going to tag Dak. They're going to tag Dak, and they're going to give Amari Cooper a long-term deal. Dallas, I think they're in top 10 in terms of salary cap space. So they were preparing for this.
Okay. They've got, I don't know. What do you think, Sam?
I think it's a Dallas move to retain Amari Cooper. I think they're definitely going to make a play at keeping him. I don't know if it's the best long-term solution, but I think that's probably where it's headed. But if I was I'm looking at teams just in general that need a receiver or need someone with Amari Cooper's talent. How about a team like the Arizona Cardinals? Because we talked about the other teams in that division. We talked about Seattle with Tyler Lockett. We've got the Rams with a bunch of players, and Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp. The 49ers with Deebo Samuel. Those are teams in that division with weapons. And right now, Arizona's best receiver is Larry Fitzgerald, and he's only going to be around for a year or two more. So if the Arizona Cardinals can find the cap space, I wouldn't be shocked if they made a run at Amari Cooper.
Yeah, I just don't know why you'd pay that much money for Amari Cooper, Anthony.
And, and my response, since you've been saying this, is what else are they going to go and get?
Oh, wait a second, though. So you're going to give this guy way more money than what he's worth. Basically hamstring your salary cap once you do this with him and Dak. And then what are you going to do? because you're not going to
Okay,
win a
so
Super
let's take
Bowl.
it back 2 years ago when Dez, they moved off of Dez and they opened the year. This is the year they traded for Cooper with Allen Hurns and Tavon Austin as their starting receivers. It was a complete disaster, and Amari Cooper did change that offense.
Really?
And if you look at these other free agents, A.J. Green's going to get the tag. Robbie Anderson, he wants to get overpaid. So you want to overpay for Robbie Anderson? Or
No,
Amari
I
Cooper?
wouldn't overpay for anybody because that's not how you win. You don't have a number one receiver
So what's
there.
their solution? What is their solution at
There's a
wide
ton
receiver?
of wide receivers in the draft.
Dallas is a team that believes they can win now.
Well, they're not going to win a Super Bowl with him as their number one receiver and Dak Prescott at quarterback and Mike McCarthy as the head coach. Dallas is a team that even when they had Chan Gailey thought they were about to win a Super Bowl.
I didn't think that, but
Well, you thought that last year.
so did a lot of people.
No,
I wasn't
they
the
didn't.
only one.
Who else thought that?
About 75% of the national media.
Okay.
What?
I don't think so. Can you give me
don't
one that
remember
picked
hearing
Dallas
that.
to win the Super Bowl?
Can I what?
Can you give me a person in the media that we would have
I
heard of?
believe
that
Adam
picked him to win
Shine had Dallas in the Super Bowl.
Adam Shine is an idiot. He's never played a sport in his life.
Okay.
Okay, he's not an idiot. He's
No.
what? He weighs like 130 pounds. What the hell has he ever done? How would he know anything about football? He's never played it. Oh, he went to school and, studied it, I guess. There's a difference between studying it and knowing something about it. Adam Shine's a moron. I know you're in love with Colin Cowherd, too. Same thing. Never played football, never been hit in his life. How the hell does he know anything? You give me soft people, Anthony. Soft people's opinions do not impress me.
I could say Michael Irvin, but he was a former Cowboy, so that's not going to do anything.
That's because
either.
all Cowboy fans are brainwashed.
But
and
he
he-
played. He won Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
he also predicts that every year, and since he played too long, he got hit in the head too much, and now he doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Okay.
I'm just telling you. I mean, what does Adam Shine know about football? What he read? What somebody tells him? And Indy, a Giants fan? That makes him stupid anyways. I mean, if 75% did, you should be able to rattle off 7 or 8 guys
I'm
anyways.
just saying.
Yeah, you're talking out your ass like a Cowboys fan.
All right.
Okay, as long as we agree on that. Sam, do you think that Anthony's talking out his ass? No, I'm kidding. The Eagles are letting left tackle Jason Peters test the free agent market. Where could Jason Peters end up, Sam?
I don't even know with him. 'Cause I thought really he looked last 2 or 3 years, he really looked almost tired at that left tackle spot. So he didn't look like his normal self. And he's going to be entering his age 38 season. He's already 38 years old. So he's in the same classification with Andrew Whitworth for me. Although I think he's deteriorated a lot more than Whitworth at this point. So I'm not sure. I don't think he'll go to a winning team because I don't think a winning team, A, needs left tackle, or B, would want to sign one that's 38 years old.
You don't? I think there's a lot of teams that are good that need left tackles. Offensive line play is not very good. I think you could stick him in New England, Anthony.
You said New England?
Yeah, why not? Their offensive line's not that good.
Yeah, but is Jason Peters really the answer? I mean, I get it. Actually, I don't hate it because if you look with Andrew Whitworth, when he went over to the Rams, he was a nice short-term piece, even though he does want to play again this year. I think Peters is going to end up with a contender as a short-term solution. But Jason Peters hasn't been able to really stay healthy either.
No, he hasn't. So it's a huge risk, but you also may be able to get him at a lot cheaper price. And he does have a lot of experience. He's played and won at a Super Bowl. So that's something no Dallas Cowboys done in almost 3 decades, Sam.
That's true. I guess he's got a little bit of a leg up there.
But
is
this Attack the Cowboys show? Attack Anthony and the Cowboys?
Every show's
Hey,
Attack the
Anthony,
Cowboys show.
We just got to get a shot in Anthony.
All right.
But
So what do you think about Jason Peters?
I'm not sure there's a specific team that I can just pick out off the top of my head that absolutely would need him for a contending spot. You mentioned New England. I'm not even sure how competitive New England's going to be next year because I don't know who the quarterback's going to be yet.
Well,
But
let's face it. With most
through,
teams in the NFL, we don't really know who the contenders are for next year right now anyways.
That's true. There tends to be a lot of fall off. We made predictions before about who's going to be competitive or not, and usually we're not right.
Oh, I'm usually right. I said San Francisco, and
yeah,
y'all laughed at me. Go ahead.
What about the Jets?
Don't you like Jason Peters?
I do, but they're a team that will overpay for somebody like Jason Peters.
Well,
and you
they're
said
a team that needs it.
The Jets might, they have some quality pieces. They need help on the line. And I think Jason Peters would be a pretty good fit there.
Yeah, I think it would be worth a shot.
He's 39 years old, but he was graded as PFF's number 6 tackle.
Well, good for PFF, but he's still 39. If you get him for a one-year deal, and especially if you've got a couple of young tackles on the roster where, he may make it so you don't have to pay a guy that you drafted in the first 3 rounds right away, I think with the Jets, that makes sense, Sam.
Yeah, I can see the Jets. I can see. What about a situation? This is a little bit different. What about in Denver? Because right now they've got Garrett Bowles running left tackle in Denver, and he gets called for holding, I feel like, all the time. He's a guy who's an absolute bust as the first-round pick. Where would you consider bringing in like Peters to replace Garrett Bowles in the short term?
In a heartbeat. And maybe he could help Garrett Bowles.
I have one more. Let's stay in the AFC West. And the Panthers, they made the move. They traded Russell Okung to Carolina, and they brought in one of the better guards in the league. If you're going to make a play at Tom Brady, one of the things that I said that they needed with the Los Angeles Chargers was to improve that offensive line. They got the guard, and I think Jason Peters would be enough to show Tom Brady that, hey, we're trying to bolster this line. We have all the other pieces, and let's get it done.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea either because, once again, that's a team that's close to being able to win that Jason Peters for 1 year could make a huge difference. So, how about this one for a free agent? What about LaShawn McCoy?
Retirement.
Sam?
Yeah, I don't know. He wasn't really even playing towards the end with the Chiefs. They don't really have a great running game to begin with. I think he'll stick around the NFL for another year. I don't think he's going to retire.
How about would he fit in Philadelphia where he doesn't have to be the main guy?
I think that could work. I think he'd be welcome back too. That'd be a popular move with fans because they're going to be losing Jordan Howard, and after Jordan Howard, it's Miles Sanders and who knows who else at that point. So it wouldn't be I don't think it would be a bad move, honestly. That probably would be a nice fit. But it's just a question of how much do you expect from him offensively.
All right, Anthony?
I just saw a complete regression from McCoy. When you're being deactivated throughout, the regular season at times, they were sitting him, thinking they were going to rest him for the postseason. I don't even know how many carries, if any, he had in the postseason. And that was with the Chiefs' backfield with Damian Williams. And sure, Damian Williams is good, but you would think that LaShawn McCoy, if he had anything left, would command some carries. I think what you said about Philly, it makes a little bit of sense. But for anything more than jersey sales?
Well, I think you're going to get him cheap. I think the days of him making $8 million a year are gone. Long gone.
I mean, you're going to give LaShawn McCoy carries over Miles Sanders and dare I say, Boston Scott?
No, I would say that if you're bringing LaShawn McCoy in, he's a just-in-case guy. And really, I think he's done, too. I was just trying to, in case he's listening, make him feel better and give a place where he could end up. Because LaShawn McCoy listens all the time, and he said he can't stand Anthony because of all that cowboy bias, Sam.
Actually, McCoy's one of my favorite running backs of this era. And I don't want to see him done, but I think he's done. But if you want to stay with if you want to stay in Buffalo, what about Frank Gore still wants to go?
I think they're all done. What about Jimmy Graham? Because he's entering the final year of his contract with the Packers, which is due to pay him $8 million and carries a cap hit of $11.6 million. If they release Graham, they save $8 million on the cap hit. He only caught 38 passes in 16 games last year. They've got to let him go, don't they?
Yeah, and that's all of the offseason rumors so far, even rumors towards the end of the season. Jimmy Graham will not be back in Green Bay. I think even if they had to eat some money, he's not going to be back because he has dropped more touchdowns than he has caught in his 2 years with the Green Bay Packers. He's a liability at this point for that team. And if he's going to stay in the league, I mean, if you want to take a cheap shot, if you're New England Patriots, to fill that tight end spot, because that seems like the direction they go, is they're trying to replace Gronk with a 45-year-old Ben Watson. Maybe Jimmy Graham lands in New England, but I don't see too many spots for him.
No, I don't either, Sam.
I don't see any premier spots, but I think there are places where you could plug him in.
Oh, yeah, if he's the second or third guy.
Maybe, but there are also teams that don't really have a tight end to begin with. You're talking about Jacksonville, where James O'Shaughnessy was your top tight end.
Well, Washington, Vernon Davis retired, and Jordan Reed, they're expected to move on from him.
Yeah, that's just the point. There's some teams in the NFL that really just don't have good tight ends. I mean, look at Buffalo. Buffalo's top tight end is Dawson Knox right now. So there are teams that just do not have pass catchers at tight end. So there are spots for him to go. But I don't believe a contender would really be willing to pay the money for Jimmy Graham at this point.
All right, guys. Any other news or headlines we want to talk about, or any other free agents you could think of?
I mean, let's stay at tight end real quick. You have Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, the two top tight ends that are going to hit the open market. Henry, I think he's going to be tagged by the Chargers, but Hooper, while he should get the tag from Atlanta, I just don't think they have the money to sign him, and he is a player that will hit the open market.
Where would you see him fitting best?
I'm hearing Green Bay is going to aggressively pursue him, and also Chicago.
I think both would be, wise moves for those two teams, Sam.
I agree. We know Green Bay, it's a given they're going to move off of Jimmy Graham. They absolutely have to make that move. And Aaron Rodgers, he needs more weapons than just Devontae Adams at this point. And then up in Chicago, they signed Trey Burton after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, but Burton really hasn't delivered. And Adam Shaheen, who they drafted a little while back, he hasn't delivered either. So they need a new tight end up there.
All right. What about Melvin Gordon? We haven't talked about him yet today.
I think he's one of the most interesting players to hit free agency right now because you don't really know what to expect from him. He's a guy who has dealt with injuries. He sat out at the beginning of last year. He held out into the beginning of last year, and it didn't put up good numbers. But depending on what he asks for, because he might ask for one of those large contracts, but I think I could see him going to somewhere like Houston, where they're going to need a running back.
Anthony? I think Houston would be perfect, by the way.
This is going to be it's like the quarterback position. I feel like there's a flood of running backs, whether they're running backs via trade, where teams want to move off a player.
How about this, Anthony? You know what I would do? If I was the Houston Texans, I'd throw a whole bunch of money at Derrick Henry.
I don't hate that, but if he gets tagged, and if you're the Tennessee Titans, you're tagging Derrick Henry and hoping to get a deal done.
Yeah. Well, that's what we assumed.
Melvin Gordon, this was a player that was coveted by the Philadelphia Eagles. They never seem to have cap space, but always bring in some marquee name.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay also works. They need a big-time running back. There's a lot of teams that would want Melvin Gordon, but after seeing Todd Gurley get paid, after seeing David Johnson get paid and Le'Veon Bell get paid, Melvin Gordon might wait a little bit because I think he's a player that wants to get paid that kind of money, but teams might be a little bit afraid to pay these guys unless you're Dallas and Zeke.
Well, yeah, because Cowboys are stupid.
Or Zeke is just that special.
He's not. He's a running back. He's not even the best running back in football, Anthony. Well, he's like third.
I'll put McCaffrey ahead of him.
So you wouldn't put Derrick Henry ahead of him?
No, because Zeke can do more in the passing game.
Who gives a shit about that? We're looking to run the ball in Tennessee.
Right. And Zeke has led the league in rushing twice so far. Derrick Henry's done it once.
Yeah.
and has
But
played longer.
Derrick Henry, I mean, has done it when it counted. Zeke never has he?
I mean, both years he led the league in rushing. They made the playoffs.
And what did they do in the playoffs?
The same thing Tennessee did.
No, they didn't. I have not
One
seen
and done.
Ezekiel Elliott in an AFC championship game. Or,
Oh, yeah,
I
that's right. They
NFC
did make an
championship.
AFC championship, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, that's right. The one year that he did win the rushing title, they were one game from the Super Bowl. I don't know. Sam.
And maybe if they hadn't Tanjadak.
And Tanjadak. That's the
Tennessee.
dumbest freaking name anybody has ever said anybody. I mean, you can't be in Tanjadak when you can't win a freaking playoff game. Even you laugh at yourself now.
Well, it is funny, and I think it would make for a good shirt.
Who's going to buy it? Huh?
I would buy it. I would buy it.
You would buy an Tanjadak shirt. But people are going to look at you and say, what in the hell is that? Because nobody will have a clue except for you.
No. You got to listen to the show, and then they'd have a clue.
Well, the fact is this. They probably wouldn't listen to the show if they heard that. If you know what I mean. All right. And I'm going to say it. Tom Brady's going to sign with the Buccaneers.
Oh.
You think he's going to go Tampa? Why do you think he's going Tampa? Is it the offensive weapons?
Yeah, he's got offensive weapons. It's nice weather down there, so his lady will like that. Bruce Arians is the head coach. I think he ends up in Tampa Bay or Tennessee. And the great thing about this is the Bucs have nearly $80 million in salary cap headed into free agency, which means Tampa can basically write him a blank check if they want to. And the Glazer family owns the team, and I think they'd be happy to get him a blank check to bring in the NFL's most famous player. Now, Raymond James Field last year was only 75% capacity for all home games. Now, the Super Bowl is also played in Tampa next season. So, if the NFL is fixed the way I've clearly explained that it is before, wouldn't Tom Brady go into Tampa Bay, taking them to the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, and maybe playing New England? That'd work out perfect. So Andy Dalton will lead the Patriots to the Super Bowl to battle the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady.
I don't hate it, and I don't hate the reasoning either.
And, I mean, if you look at this, I don't – they've got to improve the offensive line. They can do that. Even if they don't, they've got weapons out the ass, and he likes to get rid of the ball quickly, Sam. So he played in front of a bad offensive line today, or this last year, and they still went 12-4. And I also think this. I think if he goes to Tennessee, it puts an immense amount of pressure on him and Coach Vrabel. I think if he goes to Tampa Bay, people are going to kind of laugh. There's not going to be a lot of pressure. And if he goes to Tampa Bay and takes a team that hadn't been to the playoffs in a fairly long time, if he even just gets them to the playoffs, that kind of validates everything he did, that maybe it wasn't all because of Bill Belichick.
Yeah, you're talking about having success for the franchise. Whose last savior at quarterback was Josh Freeman, when that was however many years ago, 7-8 years ago, and it was talking about how they were going to make the playoffs with him. That was the last time they really were relevant. So bringing in Tom Brady, this is a scenario where, like you said, low pressure, and anything he does that gets them near the playoffs or into the playoffs, that is going to be much bigger with the Buccaneers, where there's no expectations compared to with the Tennessee Titans, where it's basically AFC Championship at least. That's what you're going to be expecting if you add Tom Brady.
All right, how about this one? What if Cam Newton was to get traded to the Chargers?
That'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting one to see that happen.
Because I think on the Chargers end, Anthony, they're getting ready to open a new stadium in 2020, and of course, nobody in LA even knows the Chargers are playing there right now. And I think adding a superstar like Newton may be able to help some tickets at the box office. And from a football perspective, a healthy Newton would be a monstrous step up from Tyrod Taylor. Why wouldn't you do that?
I don't hate it. I do think they will make a splash at quarterback, and they're going to be, they're going to be in the Tom Brady sweepstakes. But a player like Cam Newton with the Chargers, because they have a high pick, I don't see them going after a quarterback, especially with the quarterback market the way it is. And Cam, he would fit Anthony Lynn a little bit. And if you look what Anthony Lynn has done, we brought up McCoy before. I think we're omitting the Chargers because LaShawn McCoy thrived under Anthony Lynn. They're going to lose one of their running backs, and they're going to need a backup.
All right. How about this one? What about Jameis Winston then? Goes and quarterbacks the Panthers, Sam.
That's an interesting situation. I don't know if you're rebuilding like Carolina is, which they are at this point. I don't know if you want to put Jameis Winston in there as your guy because he has some flaws, just like Cam Newton has his own flaws himself, where I don't know how much you expect Newton to do. He does get to work with Christian McCaffrey, which I think will.
Yeah, if you want to cut down on Winston's insanely high interception totals, don't you want him to throw the ball less? And you get Christian McCaffrey,
I was gonna say, give him,
which means you can dump the ball off too.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's really a way to cut down on all his issues, is give him a superstar player like McCaffrey. But at the same point, I just don't know if you're Carolina, if that's the point you want to launch this rebuilding process from.
Well, it's not like Jameis Winston's real old, though.
I think the landing spot for Jameis Winston is Chicago. Because they have a defense. They have a defense that could
that he would ruin.
Minimize Jameis Winston's mistakes.
I don't think you can minimize his mistakes. I think a great defense can be ruined by a defense that turns the ball. I mean, the Chicago Bears' problem this year was Mitchell Trubisky couldn't get first downs. He threw interceptions, gave up short fields. That's the same thing Jameis Winston does.
Right. But Jameis Winston can also move the football consistently, which Mitchell Trubisky can't do.
He turns the ball over consistently more than Mitchell Trubisky does, though. And if I'm the Bears, I go after Teddy Bridgewater because I've already got Dalton signed with the Patriots. But the thing about Bridgewater is, if you look at the spots where he's thrived, it usually involves a team with a really good defense that has talented running backs. And guess what? The Bears kind of check off both of those boxes. I think he fits there. He would also fit in Carolina, by the way. But the defense isn't as good.
Is it crazy to think Jordan Howard goes back to Chicago?
Yeah, because he's not wanted there. Matt Nagy did not want him because he didn't want that style of running back. That's
but what
why
if
Matt
he
Nagy
needs?
drafted
What if he
the guy
needs that style of running back? Because that team has not been the same without Jordan Howard.
Well, I'll tell you this: Matt Nagy is not going to leave what Matt Nagy does, which is why Matt Nagy will eventually be fired. He does not take players and fit his system to them. He takes his system and tries to force the players to fit it. And it was absolutely stupid to get rid of Howard. And it showed me that he's a shit coach as soon as he
can also see Howard with Detroit. Because you need a number two. You need that pounder to go along with Kerryon Johnson.
Well, you get those two together with a healthy Matt Stafford. You draft the kid from Clemson, the linebacker. Detroit could win the division and be a Super Bowl contender next year.
I don't disagree.
I mean, because that's a team that last year, I mean, they were real competitive the first 7 games of the season until Stafford got hurt.
Kenny Golladay is a severely underrated number one receiver.
Yeah, they got Marvin Jones, who's a good receiver. I mean, they've got weapons there. Their only problem is their linebacker position since like the 1950s has been crap outside of the Chris Spielman decade. But I think the Detroit Lions would be one of my teams to be a surprise and to go, from being terrible to possibly making the playoffs next year, Sam.
Yeah, because it wasn't necessarily their fault they were bad last year entirely. They lost Matt Stafford. They were playing with David Blau for half the year. I mean, that's kind of what you have to expect at that point. So I'm not blaming the Lions, but this might work out for them, actually. Now they have that higher draft pick after that year off. They can get some free agents. They got some decent cap space, I think. So they can go out now. They've underperformed for a year, and they have a good chance to be one of the biggest risers in the NFL.
And how about this? Let's throw on that Tom Brady goes to the Buccaneers, and then the Buccaneers trade for Cardinals running back David Johnson.
That's a big contract to take on.
Yeah, but I think the Cardinals are willing to eat some of it to move off of him.
Yeah. And the thing is this, if he's got a whole year to get healthy, if he comes back and he's the way he was, and you put him with Tom Brady and those wide receiver weapons, NFC Championship games, Tampa Bay and Detroit. Which would be awesome.
Yeah, if you get David Johnson back, it'd be huge, but I just don't know. At this point, it's been 3 years since we've seen the real David Johnson, or the guy we assumed was the real David Johnson. So I don't know, 3 years is a long time for me to expect the guy to return to his all-pro form.
Yeah, and Johnson's cap hit is scheduled to jump up to $14.2 million in 2020, and that to me means this is the perfect time for the Cardinals to dump him. And I think Bruce Arians likes David Johnson. What about this one? If Washington doesn't pick Tua, which they should, what do you think about Marcus Mariota going there as the backup to give Dwayne Haskins some competition?
I don't know if he'd be the backup the entire year, honestly. I think he could replace him probably halfway
I didn't say
through.
Backup. I said to give him competition.
Well, yeah, I know. I think that's the key rule. Is you really could push Dwayne Haskins with this one because Marcus Mariota and Dwayne Haskins. I mean, let's be honest. Dwayne Haskins at his best is probably right around Marcus Mariota's level. So you've got two guys now who are mediocre quarterbacks. But
No, I don't
probably
think
still
so. No, Marcus Mariota is a lot better than Dwayne Haskins. I think that if you put Marcus Mariota in an offense that is designed for him, he can be adequate.
Yep.
He can be adequate. Not saying he's going to be great, but I did see him take the Titans to the playoffs, I believe, and win a playoff game in Kansas City.
Yeah, I like that.
Go there. If he did go there, I would expect him to replace Dwayne Haskins at some point.
Oh, yeah. And what about
Dwayne Haskins doesn't have very long as a starter in this league.
No, he shouldn't have had any time as a starter in this league. He's Cardell Jones, only he's dumber. Todd Gurley gets traded, and I think this. Todd Gurley could be your Buccaneer. He could be your Texan. He could be your Dolphin. I think the Dolphins, we've already talked about this a little bit, but I think I skipped over this. I think the Dolphins make the most sense because they were the worst rushing team in the NFL. But once again, if the Buccaneers could somehow get Brady, what the hell? I mean, if you got Brady and Gurley's healthy, very dangerous once again. I just think people with Tom Brady are so enamored by this San Francisco and this Tennessee. There's a lot of teams reportedly interested in him. And the Bucs may have more ability to throw a lot of money at him than anybody else. And I think that he's given up enough money over the years that he wants some of that back. And if he could get some of that back and go to Tampa Bay and just take him to a wild card, he's going to enhance his legend. If he goes to San Francisco, I think people forget this. The pressure will be immense on him and the 49ers organization. Because if it doesn't work out, the guy that you just replaced him with took you to the Super Bowl last year. He goes to Tampa Bay. Like I said, everybody's going to laugh at it. There's going to be no pressure. Everything he does there is just going to be icing on the cake.
Yeah, and if he struggles, you can just say, "Oh, it's Tampa Bay."
That's what I'm saying. There's a built-in reason why he lost. It's Tampa Bay. What the hell? You can't expect somebody to win in Tampa Bay. Nobody has since the immortal Brad Johnson. Of course, that was more the defense. But anybody else or anything else we're missing, Anthony?
No, I think we got all the key guys.
All right, Sam, you good?
Now, yeah, we're good. We got all the fun ones.
All right, Sam, tell us where we can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Sam_Teets33. I'm constantly posting articles and stuff out there, so feel free to go check that out.
All right, Anthony?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at the FF Face Off, and we can be found at all the top social media and podcast platforms.
Hey, your FF Face Off that we posted on thegruelingtruth.com like 5 or 6 days ago for the week was the first FF Face Off to break the top 10.
Oh, awesome.
There you go. I want to remind everybody you can find us at Rockfin, which actually has me doing a daily show now that I did for the first time today, which is not always sports. They wanted me to do some kind of a political story or a political show that had some sports into it. So you have to pay $9.99, but you get everybody that's a creator on there, which there's thousands of creators. And it's the only place that I could actually talk about what I want to talk about without being banned and put in a gulag. So check that out at Rokefin. And we will be back tomorrow at 1. If you're an Indiana Hoosier basketball fan, me and Kent Sterling will be on in 45 minutes to talk Indiana basketball, their big win over Minnesota last night. Make sure you check that out. Tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern, me and Brian Schmidt will be on to talk a little XFL football and what's going on in the XFL and our predictions for the upcoming Week 5. So make sure you check us out at 10 o'clock there. But for now, for Anthony Cervino, Sam Teets, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.